After that, I can go to a shop and I need a girl, man. It's been so long and, just, I don't know. Why do girls despise me so much, man? I have zero value. That's why I'm here. Right now, my value with girls is zero. I'm not worth anything to anyone. That's all that's left for me. Is to look nice and try hard, use up the last few years of youth, and then by the time I get to my mid-30s, hopefully I've had some experiences and I can retire in peace into my video games and my anime.
This young man who's counting down the days until he turns 30 and can't call himself a young man anymore, apparently, he thinks I'm a bully. And he's goddamn right. Quote, you still eating popcorn chicken? Or you may be like, gonna start thinking about someone other than yourself? Trust me, it'll help you get along with women, which is apparently the only thing you care about. The only thing that ever motivates you to stop playing video games for 5 minutes. Women are into this whole being a good person thing. If you ever actually talk to any of them, yeah, you'll start to notice this. And no matter how many pounds you lift, that issue, morality, will continue to be a reason why the vast majority of women despise you. Here's his reply. Whatever your idea of a good person is, I wouldn't want to become it. You notice? He's actually shifted the locus of this discussion from what these women would think is a good person. The women he's trying to seduce, I don't know, trying to have a relationship with, trying to get married to, what their judgment is of who is and who is not a good person. He shifted it to my notion of being a good person. I'm happy to talk about that too. Whatever your idea of being a good person is, I wouldn't want to become it. What is there to you as a person other than hate, judgment, and opposition to other people? Since that seems to be your entire channel and what you present yourself to the world as, period, it's vacuous. Well, I've got to tell you, Decline, thanks for taking the time to reply. Thanks for taking the time to click on some of the videos on my channel. But I'd encourage you to keep on clicking and keep on watching, because what you're going to figure out is there's a whole lot more to me than just hate, judgment, and opposition to other people. There's actually a whole lot more to me than what you see on my YouTube channel. And the traits and characteristics I've developed, the redeeming qualities I have that women find attractive, I didn't develop them in order to attract women. That's the paradox you're trapped in, okay? You can't face up to the extent to which women find you loathsome, women find you repugnant. Women find you to be lacking the characteristics they want in a man, especially in a husband, especially in someone they're going to have a long-term relationship. But you lack even the characteristics to be a good candidate for a one-night stand. And you know this, and you philosophize about this. Credit where it's due. You're not delusional, and you're even sapient enough, you're even intelligent enough to criticize other YouTube channels for giving men in your position false hope, for being encouraging in a way that's unrealistic. But you're not intelligent enough to recognize that I'm giving you exactly the advice you need to hear, because it's not the advice you want to hear. Right? These women who find you repugnant because of the characteristics you're lacking, you, in response to their revulsion, only focus on the things you can do to attract a woman. You only look at developing those traits, developing those abilities that are explicitly marked out as being for the approval of women in order to get their attention. And that's not what women really want. It's a paradox, all right? When I was in Thailand, okay, I wasn't the tallest man in Thailand. I wasn't the most handsome man in Thailand. I wasn't trying to be. I certainly wasn't the most muscular man, let's say, at the beach in Cambodia, right? But being interesting, being intelligent, being ethical, being a good person, and having women and men perceive you as such, right? It's not one thing. It's not like going to the gym and lifting weights to develop muscle, right? It's a gestalt. It's many small decisions and commitments you've made in your life that come together and that other people respond to and other people get interested in. And women who met me, yes, sometimes literally on the beach, sometimes whatever, in the middle of a rice field in northeastern Thailand or whatever, and thought, wow, this is a really interesting guy. Most of them, their first impression of me was that I was a soldier in the U.S. Army, based on appearance. That was what they thought of me. And then slowly started to realize, oh, gee, this is a guy with some real intellectual substance. This is a guy that want to go out for coffee with. That's what you lack. And you can complain that I'm bullying you, as he's about to, right? But what I'm bullying you into is to recognize the depth and significance of these moral and intellectual characteristics that you can't gain simply by lifting weights at the gym. I continue. Quote, you may see yourself as a noble enforcer of morality and normality. No, I'm not. No, I'm not, bro. I am just trying to put you on game. And I would invite you to contrast me to all the other YouTube channels that you so bitterly complain are giving people bad and harmful advice that will really ruin their lives. And I think you're right. I think your critique of many other YouTube channels, your critique of wheat waffles, your critique of the other channels that are trying to make money, monetizing the wisdom of a middle-aged man and passing it on to younger men and so on. You know what? A lot of your criticisms are right. But now, isn't it ironic? Now someone's giving you exactly the advice you need to hear. And because it's not the advice you want to hear, look at how you respond. You're just like these simps you criticize, rightly so, right? Who are clinging on to the ego boost they get, the encouragement they get from these other advice channels, including wheat waffles. But no, I don't see myself as a noble enforcer of morality, all right? I'm giving you advice you don't want to hear. And somebody in my audience, maybe 1,000 people will see this video. There's somebody in this audience who needs to hear it and will make use of it, even if it isn't you, all right? Quote, much like a schoolyard bully keeping people in their lane. I know you don't have a lot of experience with women, but the other thing that shows in everything you say and everything you write is that you have no experience with men. All the complaints you make about how easy life is for more handsome men, more muscular men, taller men, and so on, you don't know any of those guys. You don't know their life stories. You don't know. You've never been friends with the schoolyard bully, and you've never tussled with one as an enemy either. I mean, it's just funny, but this short comment, you seem to know nothing about the mentality of a schoolyard bully, what motivates them or how to deal with them. And you know, if you knew some more of those guys as your friends, I know it's impossible for you, but if you had platonic friends among women, really attractive women, you'd get to hear what miseries their lives entail also. Not the same miseries as yours, right? But they have their own struggles. They have their own tragedies that you could learn to sympathize with. And that very practice of sympathizing with other people would make you attractive to men and women. It would make you interesting. It's not just one thing. It's not just like, oh, you read Aristotle and become an interesting person. It's not reading one book and it's not reading 100 books, right? Learning to use sympathy as an analytical tool and relate to other people and the lives they're going through. That's what you failed to develop by devoting your life to watching anime and pornography and sleeping with prostitutes and yes, y'all, playing video games. And still to this day, when you're putting in the time and lifting weights at the gym, what you say of yourself in your own idiom is that as soon as you accomplish your goals, you're going to go back to just watching anime and playing video games.
And then by the time I get to my mid-30s, hopefully I've had some experiences and I can retire in peace into my video games and my anime.
How attractive is that to anyone in any context? And I know you fantasize about geomaxing. If you were on that same beach in Cambodia or the middle of a rice field in northeastern Thailand, who is interested in having a conversation with, in having a cup of coffee with, let alone a romantic relationship with? Someone whose knowledge of the world boils down to anime, porn, video games. So he says, I'm very much like a schoolyard bully. And we continue, quote, but to me, that's an empty existence, and it doesn't make you an interesting person. What does? Quote, you're simply a foot soldier, a grunt for a system that doesn't even care. You, as a competitor in the market, may see me as immoral for trying to get ahead in ways that you're not willing to pursue. But women are in a completely different position to you, so I doubt that they're going to share these same views. Okay. As of the most recent video I've heard from you, you have stated on your YouTube channel that you have had sex with 88 prostitutes. And that video was from quite a long time ago. You've continued consistently going to visit what you refer to as the shop.
After that, I can go to a shop and I need a girl, man. It's been so long and
So you're claiming that I am more judgmental of you for having slept with over 88 prostitutes. Maybe now it's over 100. We don't know. I haven't had an update from you. Right? You think I'm more judgmental than middle-class, university-educated white women in Australia who speak English as their first language, like just to pick a demographic. You know, different cultures are different that way. How judgmental are Russian women about that behavior? How judgmental are Italian women? Spanish? I do think it's different. You think I'm the judgmental one here, whereas these women you think you're going to be able to seduce after you start lifting weights at the gym. You think they're going to be real accepting of that. You think I'm more judgmental about your lifelong video game addiction, watching anime movies, etc. You think I'm more judgmental than middle-class, university-educated, white English-speaking woman from Australia. Really? Quote, I do realize that I need to become more charismatic and interesting, and there are limitations to what kind of women and people more generally I can get along with and have my personality appeal to. So you see, I give him some credit. He really does have some self-awareness. He is self-critical to some extent. All right, continue. Quote, but I don't think I'd pursue your path in terms of character development. I'm not telling you to pursue my path because I don't think you've got what it takes. I think it would kill you. I'm telling you to pursue a path. And when it doesn't work, another one and another one and another one. And out of all those failures, in sum and in sequence, you will finally find a path that you can call your own. I'm just telling you, it's not going to be anime and video games, and it's not going to be taking the same life, anime, video games, pornography, prostitutes, and then adding to it regular visits to the gym. All right? Before you were a complete loser, now you're a complete loser who goes to the gym. It's a difference, but it's not the kind of difference you're trying to make. Yes, you know, men and women alike, they want to talk to somebody who's trying to make a positive difference in the world. You know, they do. They want to talk to somebody who has some ambition above and beyond What you state yourself in your own idiom, your ambition is just to sleep with over 100 women and then return to playing video games and watching anime movies. What is appealing about that? What is interesting about that? Wouldn't it be more interesting to meet and talk to someone, whose dream is just to mount the greatest production of Shakespeare? Maybe just the greatest production in the history of Sydney, Australia. Let's lower the standards a little. I'm just saying, not everyone's dream is going to be the same as mine. If you were someone devoting 10 years of your life to Shakespeare, I'm the first person to say Shakespeare is overrated. It's not that meaningful, right? But the study of Shakespeare, directing and mounting a production of Shakespeare, right? That's so much more meaningful, so much more interesting, so much more rewarding, and even so much more political than what you have been doing with your life up to this point. And on some level, I'm right. You know that if you'd been a theater major instead of a computer science major, right? You would not have dug yourself into the shallow grave you're now standing in. All right? So to just finish this quotation, he does realize he needs to become more charismatic and interesting. There are limitations to what kind of people can appreciate his personality. And he says, quote, "But I don't think I'd pursue your path in terms of character development. It's not the kind of person I'd want to become. And honestly, I don't think it's all that appealing to women." He claims that he's being realistic about women. They're humans with desires like everyone else. Looks matter, and it doesn't make any sense to deny that. Quote, "If I did want to find someone compatible on more levels, I know that there are some women who do find me interesting, that I can talk to, that I can get along with, and that see me as a decent person. And by meeting the looks threshold of more women, I'm going to widen that pool significantly and hopefully find someone who desires him and is a good match." Do you know a lot of women who would be willing to get married to a man who is a methamphetamine addict? What if he lies to them and conceals it? They get married, they find out later on that he's a methamphetamine addict. All right? The position you're in how you present yourself to women is likewise one of concealment. You're constantly concealing what a despicable person you are so that women will be interested in you, so that women will accept you. And it is just a matter of time before they figure you out. And I understand you're so lonely, you're so self-hating, that from the position you're in now, you think that's going to be a step up. If you can just get to the point at which you are charismatic enough, well-spoken enough, physically fit enough, that you can bring women into the first few stages of that process, where, for example, they go on a few dates with you, or maybe some of them actually sleep with you, before they figure it out, right? I understand. What you complain about now with women rejecting you and women flaking out on you right at the beginning, right at the first stages of trying to set up a date or something, right? That's women who are catching the vibe. They're guessing. They're feeling that there's something wrong with you. And they're not going to stick around to find out what it is. I have seen you weeping on camera because you wanted to eat popcorn chicken so badly to make yourself feel better. Now, I'm going to ask you two very different questions. Imagine that same clip of you weeping about how much you want popcorn chicken to make yourself feel better. Would you be willing to accept a woman, no matter how beautiful, if you'd seen her doing what was in that clip? Now, of course you would. Okay, what if you're joining the army and that's your military commander? That's a man who's going to make life and death decisions for you when you go over the hill, so to speak, when you go into combat. How would you feel knowing your life is on the line? You have to trust this person with everything. And that's how unreliable they are. That's how self-pitying they are. That's what a childlike level of mental development they're arrested at? Do you feel you can trust that man with your life? You can follow his commands going into battle? Okay. What women want, no exceptions, no exceptions. What women want is a man whom they can trust with their life. You may appreciate this and you may not, because I know you've been through some dangerous situations, right? But most women know that when they're alone in that apartment with you, when there's nobody else around, if you're just a little bit crazy, their life's in danger. They may not have the strength to fight back. They may not have the means to defend themselves. When they trust you to that extent of going home with you to your apartment, even at that first phase, let's say it's a one-night stand, right? Then beyond that, the type of trust, the type of commitment for a long-term relationship, for a marriage. Women want a man they can trust with their lives. And you know what? Men should want the same in a woman. But the reality is most men have much lower standards. And that's why you can't conceive of what a turnoff it would be for you to see a woman saying the same thing about binge eating popcorn chicken to deal with her emotions, which I'm suggesting you ought to find revolting in a woman, but you don't. Because you don't hold your own future wife to the same standards that you would hold a military commander or a surgeon who's going to operate on you tomorrow, or a political leader, right? And actually the woman you love, the woman you marry, that should be someone you trust to a higher level, not a lower one. So I wrote back, quote, "Women do not want a man whose life plan is just video games and anime. You behave as if these things are unrelated because it's convenient for you to pretend that women don't care whether or not you're a good person, but they do. On some level, you know that you have to stop being motivated exclusively by female approval, and on some level you know that female approval results from intellectual and ethical characteristics that you cannot develop through seeking female approval. What kind of woman is seeking a guy who has slept with over 80 prostitutes and who simply wants to have over 100 one-night stands before, in your words, retiring to just play video games and watch anime? You're a completely despicable person in your own estimation, by your own standards." And most of your audience won't be honest with you the way I am, because they feel sorry for you. Most of the people in your audience just want to encourage you because they see you teetering on the brink, teetering on the edge, and in some ways that can bring the worst and most corrupting kind of advice into your life of all. You have to be willing to listen to that perspective. The advice you need to hear is not the advice you want to hear. Close my quotation here. Of course, most women will despise you, and most men too. You can't overcome that by weightlifting alone.